Hello everyone, welcome to the Literary and Jury Charge. We're going to start off with some Latin and French words. I will give you the words first and then read you the paragraph, okay? All right, here we go. Sestui qui trust, ex delicto, mala prohibita, and mea culpa. So I will spell those for you so you can put them in your dictionary after the class. Okay, so the first one is sestui qui trust. So sestui, C-E-S-T-U-I, space, qui, Q-U-E, and trust, T-R-U-S-T is the third word. Okay, then we have ex delicto, E-X, space, D-E-L-I-C-T-O. Then we have mala prohibita, mala, M-A-L-A, space, prohibita, P-R-O-H-I-B-I-T-A, and mea culpa, mea is M-E-A, and space, culpa, C-U-L-P-A. Here's your paragraph. The beneficiary or person for whom property is held in trust is the sestui qui trust. Sestui qui trust means the beneficiary of a trust. A cause of action or a claim that is based upon or arises out of a tort is called ex delicto. Ex delicto may be based on a civil wrong. Mala prohibita is a wrong which is committed that is not inherently illegal. Mala prohibita acts are forbidden by the laws of society. Ex delicto is based on matters arising from a tort. Malum prohibitum is singular. Mala prohibita is plural. Mea culpa means my fault or I am to blame. Mea culpa is heard in some Christian prayers. All right. I've got part 3 of the metals. Ready? The only metal that is liquid at room temperature is mercury, sometimes called quicksilver. Mercury is 13.5 times denser than water and actually the heaviest liquid known. Mercury is used in instruments of measurement such as thermometers, barometers, and vacuum gauges. The mercury vapor discharge is a good source of ultraviolet light used in fluorescent lamps. Platinum is stronger and harder than gold. It melts at a higher temperature than gold, 1773.5 degrees centigrade. Platinum is a good electrical conductor because it is very expensive and has an enduring quality. Jewelry is frequently fashioned from platinum. In surgery, platinum with its alloys is used for artificial bones. In this age of nuclear science and electronics, many metals are finding new applications that are sure to improve our standard of living. Okay. I have an article here. This is called Mama's Boy. Okay. NBA star Kevin Durant owes his career to his greatest coach. Guess who? Mama's Boy. Here we go. You wouldn't know it to look at me. I tower over most people at 6'9", a lean and mean 240 pounds. The size comes in handy in my line of work. I play forward for the NBA's Oklahoma City Thunder. On the court, I've got my game face on. I'm focused on doing whatever it takes for our team to win, shooting a jumper, slashing to the basket, mixing it up with other big men. But I don't get too loud or emotional, not even when I take charge of a game. Off the court, though, it's a different story. I'm still not loud, but I don't mind letting my feelings show, especially my feelings about my greatest coach and biggest inspiration, my mother, Wanda Pratt. No matter how far my career takes me from our hometown, Seat Pleasant, Maryland, I'll always be my mama's boy. I told you, you wouldn't guess it looking at me, but it's true. Mom has been there for me from day one, when I first picked up a basketball and fell in love with the game, and she's still there cheering for me from her seat. That's if she stays in it. Across from the Thunder bench. The lessons she taught me have made me a better player and, more important, a better person. You get what you give. Mom put my older brother Tony and me in sports early to keep us off the streets. We pretty much lived at the rec center. I loved basketball, and when I was all of 11 years old, I told my mom I wanted to play in the NBA. She could have laughed. After all, there are fewer NBA players than there are Fortune 500 CEOs. But she didn't. She wanted Tony and me to know it was worth following our dreams. She also wanted us to understand that it takes hard work and sacrifice to achieve them. She showed us that each day. Her dream was to give us every chance to succeed in life. For a single mom, that was tough. She needed a good, steady job to support us, but she wanted to be home when we got back from school. So she worked the overnight shift at the post office, loading 70-pound mail bags onto trucks. She'd leave for work while Tony and I were getting ready for bed. Sometimes I'd see exhaustion in her eyes when she kissed me goodnight. Not that she ever complained. The biggest thing Mom gave up for us was her time. She didn't have a social life like other women in their 20s and 30s. She was working when her friends went out. The rest of her time she spent with us, at home, at church, at our practices and games. Once I asked my mom why she didn't date, or at least go out with her girlfriends. She loved to dance. She'd put on music at home and show off her moves. God gave me you and your brother, my mom said. You guys are my life. That made me think. If my mom was giving up everything for us, then I'd better work as hard as I could to make her sacrifice worth it. From then on, I practiced as much as I could. Long after my teammates left the rec center, I stayed and did drills until my muscles ached. Then it was home for dinner and homework. On weekends, my mom would get me out of bed late at night. Time for sit-ups and push-ups, she said. I'd whine, Mom, I did my workout already. I know, she said, but to get where you want to go, you've got to do extra. My mom could have been getting some rest herself instead of pushing her boys to be better. Thank the good Lord, she kept at it, even when I resisted. Never say quit. The day in freshman year that the basketball coach at my high school told me I made the team, I was flying high, but I was quickly brought down to earth. At our first scrimmage, I broke free near the basket and put my hand up for the ball. I'm open. Our point guard passed to someone else. Guess he didn't see me. Next time, I thought. Next time never came. I'd get open, but no one would pass me the ball. I knew what was going on. These guys had been the team leaders, and they didn't want a freshman horning in. After the scrimmage, I found my mom and told her I didn't want to play with guys who treated me like I was lower than dirt. I'm quitting, I said. If you quit, she said, they're never going to pass you the ball. I was back on the court the next day. I kept showing up, working hard, and you know what? They passed me the ball. You gotta believe. I didn't have a positive self-image as a kid. Part of it was my personality. I'm a little shy until I get to know you. But the real problem was my height. My middle school, or by middle school, I was already over 6 feet, taller than all my classmates and most of my teachers. Plus, I was super skinny. When you're that age, you just want to fit in. And I stood out, literally. My mom had to ask the teachers to let me stay at the back of the line whenever the class went anywhere, even the cafeteria. That all changed when I started to make a name for myself on the basketball court. I saw that being tall was a blessing, but it didn't stop me from doubting myself. Flash forward 5 years, I'd played 1 season at the University of Texas and been named National Player of the Year. The Seattle Supersonics made me the number 2 pick in the 2007 NBA draft. The message I took from that was, we're counting on you. You're going to carry us to the finals. My first season, we had the second worst record in the league, even lower than where the team had finished the year before, without me. It's on me, I told my mom. I was supposed to make the team better. I felt like I'd let everyone down. Like always, my mom picked me up. Give it time, she said, reminding me of those rough first weeks on my high school team. Trust yourself and your coaches. Trust your faith. You'll turn it around. She was right. The team moved to Oklahoma City and became the Thunder in 2008. 2 years later, we made the playoffs for the first time. Do your happy dance. Game 4, 2011 NBA Western Conference Semifinals. We were playing Memphis on their home court, down 2-1 in a best-of-7 series. My mom was in her usual seat, front row, across from our bench, where I could see her and she could see me. I wished she couldn't. I was having a terrible game. My shots just weren't falling. A loss would put us deep in a hole. I tried to talk myself out of my funk, but I was still beating myself up when we came out for the third quarter. That's when one of my teammates pointed to the giant video screen. There was a woman up there dancing up a storm, waving her hands in the air, shimmying to the music, the hugest smile on her face. It was my mom. I knew she had those moves, and she liked to dance during timeouts. But we were losing. How could she be having the time of her life? I looked at my teammates. They were cracking up. I busted out laughing too. My mom's happy dance was her way of telling me, look where you are, Kevin. You're living your dream. Have fun with it. The tension melted away. Wouldn't you know, my shots began to drop. We caught Memphis and then beat them in triple overtime. We went on to win the series and advance to the conference championship. Always keep growing. Last year, the Thunder lost to the Miami Heat in the finals. It hurt. I couldn't hold back my emotions when I hugged my mom after the game. I cried in her arms. Then I got to thinking, each year I grew as a player. We grew as a team, and each year we got closer to winning it all. I'm keeping that in mind as I work on taking my game to another level and becoming a complete player. Great article. You can apply that to anything, to court reporting school, whatever you want it to apply to. All right, so some criminal jury charge. Ready? It now becomes your duty as jurors in this case involving assault and battery to determine all the facts that have been presented. You have heard the attorney for the people sum up his case. You have heard the attorney for the defense make his summation to you, and you have heard all the witnesses present their sides of the events which took place last December. Evidence is either direct or circumstantial. Direct evidence is evidence that directly proves a fact without the necessity of establishing that fact. Circumstantial evidence is evidence that, if found to be true, proves a fact from which an inference of the existence of another fact may be drawn. Both evidence, direct evidence, and circumstantial evidence are acceptable as a means of proof. Neither is entitled to any greater weight than the other. You must remember that the defendant is presumed to be innocent until proved guilty. The people must establish beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty. What does reasonable doubt mean? It means a doubt based upon reason and common sense. You must be reasonably certain that this defendant is guilty. You must have no doubts as to his guilt. You must feel sure that he is guilty beyond all reasonable doubt. Intent can be shown by a statement of intent made by a defendant, by the circumstances attending the act, the manner in which it is done, the means used, and the soundness of mind and discretion of the person committing the act. For the purposes of this case, you must assume that the defendant was of sound mind at the time of the alleged conduct, which it is charged constituted the crime described in the information. All right. We're going to end off with an article here, Parents Are as Good as Their Word. Ready? In the annals of parenting, there are some threats that have become classics. One of these days you'll have children just as rotten as you are is one. You made your bed, now lie in it is another goodie. And who could forget, if you can't listen, you'll just have to suffer. This was delivered just before my mother brought great pain to some sort of my body. Some expressions, however, just never caught on. Only once in the years I was growing up did I hear my mother say, "I'm going to give you something to laugh about." Whenever I was standing there with tears running down my cheeks, so miserable I wanted to die, she would say, "I'm going to give you something to cry about." I already had something to cry about, but she always figured she had something better. I never knew what the difference was between my tears and the new ones she gave me, but she invariably seemed pleased. Parents worry when their kids are too happy. I don't know why, but I can remember going into a bedroom where my kids were bouncing on the bed, giggling out of control and having such a good time they were on the verge of ecstasy. I'd say, "Keep it up. You're going to be crying in a minute." Talk about stopping the clock just before midnight on New Year's Eve. There was always a perfect time for giving a child something to cry about. Just before you look or took the family picture seemed to be good. That way, their eyes were puffy and their faces pinched and distorted. They looked like they were poster children with grief. Embarking on a fun vacation was another time to make sure there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Whenever the back seat of the car was quiet, I'd reach over and give one of them a whack for what they were thinking of doing next. If they didn't do it, they still had a whack for all the times they did something, and I never saw it. Occasionally, you will give birth to a child who will not be intimidated. Your threats will fall on deaf ears. When you say to him, "I'm going to give you something to cry about," he smarts back, "Like what?" You answer, "I'm going to take away your computer, withhold your allowance, give away your puppy, and see to it that you never see another Oreo cookie for as long as you live." He answers, "Who cares?" Some children do not want their mothers to be happy. The only time my mother turned the phrase in the other direction was one day when I messed up and she said, "You've buttered your bread, now lie in it." I began to laugh and she said, "I'll give you something to laugh about," and pinched a piece of my arm off. I showed her. I cried myself sick. All right, and that concludes our literary and jury charge for the 160 class. Have a great day.